Here's how I made my HERA civilian Twi'lek headband. This pattern fits perfectly onto any Lego pattern I have in my Etsy shop. Click the link in the description to get it. If you want to fit it on other headpieces, you might need to adjust it a bit. All you need to build this yourself is brown pleather, lining fabric depending on how stretchy the pleather is, a small piece of stretchy fabric, brown jersey bias tape, 1 to 2 and 10mm foam, a Dremel, filler, primer and paint, scissors, a box cutter, bobbins or fabric clips, fabric glue and contact cement, a mask for gluing, sewing chalk, basic sewing equipment, and of course, a sewing machine. I'll link you the products I used in the video description. Now let's get started. First, cut out the side pieces. Don't forget to add seam allowance all around. If you're lining the headband, cut 1 and 1 mirrored side piece from pleather and do the same for the lining fabric. Otherwise, just cut 2 and 2 mirrored pieces from the pleather. Now put 1 side piece and 1 mirrored side piece, in my case from lining fabric, right on right side and carefully stitch around the sew line of the ear cone hole. I actually used the hand wheel on my sewing machine to be more precise. After that, cut down the seam allowance. Now you can turn them around and iron them, putting a cotton cloth in between the pleather and the iron. I then proceeded using a zigzag stitch around the pieces to make sewing easier later. If you're lining the pieces as I do, cut all other pieces out and zigzag stitch around them too. After that, iron all the pieces. Now it's finally time to sew the pieces together. I start with the head base front and the head side front seam. Pin the pieces in place and sew. And iron the seams afterwards. Then cut out the head detail from 1 to 2mm foam and a big enough piece of stretchy fabric to cover it. Use contact cement to wrap the foam into the fabric like shown here. Mark the 2 sewing guidelines and sew. I added some embroidery thread after because I wanted it to be more visible. Then glue some stretchy bias tape around using fabric glue. It's time to glue it to the head base. I also stitched around the piece afterwards to secure it tightly. Finally, pin the headband 1 to head side and head base on each side. Sew the pieces down and iron the seams again. This is what it looks like from underneath now. Now you can pin and sew headband 2 to headband 1. Be careful to use the mirrored piece on the mirrored side and the other on the other one. After that, I used textile glue to bend the seam allowance inside and glue it down as seen here. Careful now, as it's time to close the last headband base seam. Use pins to place the seams exactly onto each other and then sew over it. Turn it around to hopefully see some perfectly matched seams, and if not, it's down below, no one will see. I glued and ironed the seams down as the fabric is very thick around them. Now take the headband 3 piece and sew together the short sides. After that, glue the seam allowance inside again on both sides. Iron the 2 loops and place them onto the headband 2 pieces as indicated in the pattern. Then hand sew them down to make them stay in place on the Lego. Create 4 more loops with the head strap 1 and 2 pieces, using exactly the method we used on headband 3 right now. The advantage of just gluing the seam allowance inside is not only the clean look of the outside seam, but the pleather inside sticks to the silicone Lego way better and stays in place without any help. If you are making a foam Lego, you might need to hand sew the straps to keep them in place. Now use your stretchy bias tape to go around the headband outside. Start in the middle of the headband base back and leave some allowance, as when you wrap around you'll need that to be connected and sewn together with the other end, as seen here. Then sew the bias tape down to the headband and turn it around. Stitch the insides down by hand as I did here. Take the ear cone inside pieces I stitched around them and pin them inside around the ear cone holes. Then carefully stitch them in place. These will hold the earcon pieces later on and make them removable for watching. Mark the embroidery detail on the headband and stitch a line with an embroidery stitch of your choice. Alternatively, you can just paint the line on. Next up are the ear cones. These are made of 10mm foam circles stacked on each other. First, cut out the circles as shown. This doesn't have to be too precise. Glue them together, forming these little towers. Then cut away excess foam before starting to sand them down into cone shapes. Fix little uneven spots with filler, let it dry and sand it down. Afterwards, prime them and color them with acrylics. Then take the earcon outside pieces and some leftover bias tape and sew little loops. Sew the bias tape loops down onto the earcon outside pieces and glue the cones into the openings as shown here. After that, you can stuff the finished pieces into the headband. This takes a while, so be patient with yourself here. And that's it, you're done! I can't wait for your creations with my patterns, so if you followed along, please tag me in your work in progress content. I'd love to see. Thank you and happy crafting! Bye bye!